Islam to the viewers, Islam to the viewers. Thank you for tuning in to Maru's meeting. So camelbacking off of last video, again, we were talking about the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. Okay. We started off, or we ended off around Article 13, I believe. So we'll scroll down there. And before we start to read, I'd just like to reiterate a few points in regards to that last video. So this document is just as what the title says, is for the protection of all persons, right? And from enforced disappearance. Enforced disappearance. So this enforced, what is this person we're talking about? Well, this person is what some people call the straw man, right? So one of the first things that must be done as more states when we're establishing national trusts, exercising our national trust, is to put the, and excuse me if my phone keeps going low like that, but is to put the entire so-called straw man or person under the Moroccan state, okay, or what's called even called a Moorish subject. So is to put this under the Moroccan state, okay. This requires state number of parties. The offense of enforced disappearance shall not be regarded as a political offense or as an offense connected with political offense, as an offense inspired by political motives. Accordingly, a request for extradition based on such an offense may not be refused on these grounds alone. The offense of enforced disappearance shall be deemed to be included as an extraditable offense. So that's the seriousness of it. Not a political offense, an extraditable offense. In any extradition treaty existing between states parties before the entry into force of this convention. So how are we to handle each other? Well, we look at the treaties, right? That was in force before this convention. But what seriousness? What it says that an extraditable offense, not a political offense, right? So it's giving us avenues on how to carve our laws, how to enact these laws. It says states parties undertake to include the offense of enforced disappearance as an extraditable offense in any extradition treaty subsequently to be concluded between them. If a state party which makes extradition conditional on the existence of a treaty receives a request for extradition from another state party with which it has no extradition treaty, it may consider this convention as a necessary legal basis for the extradition in respect to the offense of enforced disappearance. So before we continue, let's talk about more about this enforced disappearance, because this has happened in several ways, as I mentioned in the previous video. Not only are we talking about a physical scenario in which that enforced disappearance could mean what some Moors call kidnapping, right? Them being pulled over by a policy enforcer, detained, whether lawfully, unlawfully, or whatever, what have you. This enforced disappearance is physical, of course, as a physical person can disappear. But in a lawful sense, we've seen that enforced disappearance was it happened back when they turned everybody from human beings to corporations, in which that person, in a sense, disappeared. So we're talking about this person, whether being, being enforced to disappear. So we're talking about this person, a corporation, and a human being, right? We seen this both. And so we got to think on multiple levels when we enacting these laws. When we say in person, right, we're talking about, um, you know, the more state having to define this section when they enact the laws, right? Cross all T's, dot all I's. Um, so I just want to share that point in regards to enforced disappearance. Okay. So state parties, this is part 5. States parties which do not make extradition conditional on the existence of a treaty shall recognize the offense of enforced disappearance as an extraditable offense between themselves. Okay. Extradition shall in all cases be subject to the conditions provided by the law and requested state party or applicable extradition treaties, including in particular conditions relating to minimal penalty, requirement for extradition, and the grounds upon the requested state party may refuse extradition or make it subject to certain conditions. Okay, so we're talking about this extraditable offense, right? So what international conventions, what treaties, what sections in treaties deal with penalties in regards to extraditable offenses? That's what we hone in on, right? So we're talking about, genocide and a number of things. Okay. Nothing in this convention shall be interpreted as imposing the obligation to extradite if the requested state party has substantial grounds for believing that the request has been made for the purpose of prosecuting or punishing a person on account of the person's sex, race, religion, nationality, ethnic origin, political paramount because, again, let's scroll down to where we just read from. We just read this document, okay? The forced disappearance. In this section, as we scroll up, was all about human rights, okay? So all of this is about human rights.
Hey,
Okay. Yeah,
Akil, can you send us to us, send that list of treaties, or is that can we download that or something? Or can you send that to my email?
yeah. I send that this email along with the other emails that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I'll send that here simultaneously on my other phone. So this is a good list to look at. You know, it's the treaties that we accede to are the treaties that you want to study most. Why? Because you have to accede to a treaty first to utilize. It's just due process of law. So again, you can see narcotics and drugs, traffic in persons, right? Health, obscene publication. So this is a very important document, right? In which that, if you notice, this document is mentioning departments that government should have, right? So when we thinking about us as states, developing states, we want to take into consideration what is the most effective, what are the most effective laws, what are the most effective spheres of government or departments of government that need attention most, right? What as you can see, there's many avenues of departments and committees and all that that a government can have, but it's going to take organization this in subsequential order, right? It goes in a certain chronological order as far as what's said in that. There's not one department that's necessarily um, well, some say the treasury is of course more important than almost every other department or seat of office or excuse me department. But and then you have the legislative branch that, of course, without laws, nobody can do their job. So there's certain values, right? Obviously, because everybody has different duties. But again, with us establishing ourselves as states and the plans that we have coming up, we want to set ourselves up in a manner to where we're able to exercise ourselves um, in a broad enough fashion in a instance to where we can move effectively. Just a second.
Islam comment. Um, it is first thing that comes to my mind in terms of legislation. There's many things we can tackle, but the one thing that definitely stands out to me is our right to travel and how you say the way we can move around. I'm saying physically, uh, that's some type of legislation that's a part of legislation that I'll be interested in. Like I said, there's plenty of other areas, but I definitely want to be able to move efficiently without worry. uh, that's my comment. And you.
Hmm. That's a good. Okay. Okay. And just to put this out there, in a few minutes, son, um, will be arriving, and I'll have to go outside and get them. So when that moment comes, you guys can talk amongst yourself for a while until I come back. It'll only be a few minutes. So I'll let you guys know when that moment comes. Um, so as you can see, this is very extensive. Okay, a lot of things to establish the states, right? Find a law, treaty. Okay, so what I what I'll be presenting next, um, in because I want to get talk more about real time. We can go over these documents over and over and over, and just new documents, and go just read the words. But I want to get more dynamic, more real time. Talk about these articles in real time, as if you were to, have that conversation as if you were enacting these laws right now. I'm not asking you to play every thought and idea on the table right now, um, but it's important to exercise our minds in the spheres that we're in. But with that, I'll yield the floor as my son has just arrived. So I'll yield the floor, and you guys can talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes, and I'll be back hopefully in about no longer than 5 minutes. Okay. So you guys can talk amongst yourselves, and I'll yield the floor. Be right back.
Islam Moore, brother Cicero Beeman Bay here. I just want to continue on where I left off my last comment. When it comes to legislation, I want to talk among us about certain things that we can bring up in discussion right now, legislation-wise, that we can possibly enact or have in the back of our mind or forefront of the mind. But I've already mentioned one thing that I'm curious about how we can tackle is our right to travel, the freedom of travel, and how we can not be taxed on that. This is an issue, not the forefront of all the issues, but something I'm definitely curious about and how we can tackle that. The way we move and travel around this territory, as well as I do know DeMarcus L. You have already practiced in did some things of the like the license plate. I know you got experience at least putting that on, and possibly even dealing with other people who probably questioned you on that. I'm curious about your experience on that right there, and your ideas for potential legislation, just to kind of at least have a template in mind on how we can potentially start to tackle that issue. And another one is probably not as big as an issue, but the ability or the right to grow our own food. I'm only saying that because, based off what I recall, they're trying to limit us in how we can plant our own food and grow agricultural wise, which I feel like being able to move and being able to eat as human beings on this planet shouldn't be taxed and shouldn't be mandated as the way they're trying to incorporate us on those two forefronts. I yield the floor.
It's DeMarcus Harris L. No, I'm just joking with you, Cicero. um, with the plates, before I got with Meru State Republic, I was with the Malachi Empire, and See, but this is all through their system, through the U.S. system. So I don't know how it's gonna be when it turns over and it's under our Moroccan law. So I don't know if we gonna get a plate for us with our seal and like our ID number on there. So I really can't because right now I put a lien on that straw man and I filed it with New York. And I mean that came with a security agreement, like a schedule fee, uh, it's other documents that I sent off with it. So it's like when they read that tag, my plate is also under the US DOT, but I got it registered under my trust. So when they read that VIN number, instead of it saying state of Indiana, it'll say in a law I trust. So that's the route. That's what I did. That's how I ride, or not ride, but travel with my private conveyance. I don't know how we're gonna do it with when it becomes under Moroccan law because that's like my trust is incorporated. You know, I got a 98 EIN number through them, so I don't know how it'll work like that. It's not necessarily putting in because I put in conjunctions, letting them know when I had my own custom made plates, and I still got pulled over. But since I've had these plates from the Malachi Empire, I've had like the state police get behind me. They'll read the plates and they'll just take off going about their business. But I have US DOT number on my plate though, so I don't know how it'll go when everything's under Moroccan law. But that part, but
Okay, Islam, yo.
um,
Islam.
I mean, I maybe a kill no, but I don't know. I know I think he said Impact got Autobahn insurance or something like that. Is that something that you said that they had figured
Yeah,
out?
I recall him mentioning that before. They got insurance, and they got that
Yeah,
part of their legislation already established. Kind of curious of how we can potentially copy and paste, in a sense, what they got going on, especially if it's working for them.
yeah. I just don't know. Like, we make our own plates, and then like we put out that ID number on there. That's the only way I could think of. I don't. I mean, I'm not sure. I have to like see what they did and go from there. Because then when everything switches over, um, I don't know if we'll have a plate at their BM. I don't know, to be honest.
Can I chime in?
Well, we got DeAndre Bay on the line from AMPAC. He's the wazir of AMPAC. Um,
Hey, you know, I'm just
um,
playing with you, sister, right?
Islam, I know.
Okay.
Everything, I'll be kind of late to sarcasm, but I usually get it.
How much you being mad at me or something, man? Be like, you a light skinned mother.
No, no, I'm far from that superficial. I'm past that. A light skinned
uh,
yellow nigga.
Man, y'all is nuts.
we got DeAndre Bay on the line. He's the wazir of AMPAC, and maybe he can share with us a few pointers in regards to. I think everybody was talking about license plates.
Generally, just how we can travel, really, but one aspect we brought up.
See, like in their system, I know how to do it. You know, I could tell you point A to B, but when it come to us, since we not amalgamating, I don't know like how we would go from there. It's kind of like relearning it, but we doing it our way, like with the laws and all that. I can pretty much
Hmm.
catch on how we would do the laws, but when it comes to this part, I'm not really sure on which way we supposed to go. From my opinion, I would think that since we turned in our paperwork to them and we got that ID number, maybe that ID, that ART 0703, maybe that'd be our license plate number. So when the policy enforcer read that number, then it'll pull up like all persons protected. That's the only way I could think of. We just make our own private plate just like how we did the ID, and then go from the insurance from there. But see, with my insurance before I was with the Malachi Empire, I had a auto bond with the birth certificate, which was a surety bond, and I had got pulled over, and I had this custom plate on. And when I went to court, the court was saying that I needed, I know I didn't need it. They insurance, that's what they was saying. They said, you got to go to the BMV. So I had went to the BMV with my surety bond, and BMV said, nah, all you had to do was show the court. So they tried to play me back and forth. So that's how I knew, like, you got to have financial responsibility. It's not necessarily insurance. If you look at your code laws for the state, you'll have something that says, well, we all in Indiana, so I know exactly what the code is, but it says you got to have financial responsibility. It's not actually insurance. That's how they trick us, but it's really financial responsibility. But I got it. That birth certificate is like a surety bond too. So I'm kind of like, I don't know how to do it on our part though. I mean, I could figure it out. I just need to see where to start from.
How we you guys talking about the license plate, right?
Yeah, he was talking about the right to travel, because we want to
Travel.
be protected, not bothered, mess with. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that you probably gonna get pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
There's as much as you being competent. But if the ID's there and we all in, then it shouldn't be much of a problem. I had an issue because I had a custom plate, and I gave them a driver's. I got a CDL. So I got the CDL on with my feds on and my appellation on there. So that's where I messed up at. At the time, I got an international driver's license and I got the passport I know we're not American nationals, but that's how I had corrected everything before I got in international law. So if I had
Mm-hmm.
got pulled over again, I gave them a passport or international driver's license. But I've been pulled over and I gave them an international driver's license. They just let me go. So I
Yes,
think
as
it's,
far as
huh?
as far as the license plates would go, would be what we call license plates would be simply under the national trust, and I guess that's why it's important for us to start learning about this once we get the information and hone in on that, because that's all property and assets that be protected by the national trust first and foremost. So then from that degree, we sprout from what when we're talking about certain property and assets, what type of property and assets, what department is it dealing with? What treaty or convention is given this the power to be set up in a certain way? So from whatever convention or treaty or whatever we have established to deal with whatever we're dealing with, and it may be taxes, it may be um, anything. We first check where the derived authority comes from, our instructions, right? The treaties, the conventions, all that, and then say, okay, when it comes to these plates, it's just like the state IDs, right? Because it's um, we're talking about the transit department, and we're talking about a government, and so therefore we're talking about how you guys mentioned how AMPAC they have set themselves up in so many ways to where, and hopefully DeAndre can uh, input on this, being that he's a wise ear, can help us out a lot. Um, that they've
Islam.
set themselves. Hey, peace, Abdul.
Islam, Abdul.
Islam, everybody. Peace and love.
Glad you hopped on. So in regards to how we set ourselves up in numerous amount of ways, it would first stem from the national trust, and then we will branch off um, in each of its respects from there. And again, the markers, just how you said, the numbers we will be dealing with. It will be according to each department, um, et cetera, et cetera. In that being that one state cannot get involved with affairs of another state, um, uh, that when it comes to what we can and can't exercise, is not up to them. When I say them, I mean any other state party. So as long as we're following the instructions according to what the conventions say, what committees we establish amongst each other by way of treaty, et cetera, later on, then that'll be the way we exercise what we wish to exercise. So in the degrees of the plates and stuff like that, it's the same for the state IDs. We just set ourselves up in a way, and also in regards to us putting in the necessary time and energy into this, would come by way of how we can strategically enact these laws. So if we can strategically think about, okay, if the first sphere is or the initial phase of things is where a lot of the pain points would be, such as a lot of Moors have traveling versus driving, that whole type of thing, right? So if we established state government laws, foundations, departments that can eventually be the revenues of income, right? For us to basically work for ourselves. We do that. We got to think about this holistically. It's based on the laws you first enact, how you can receive, right, all of this all of what's to come, but you can't receive it if you're not ready to. So if we want to put the necessary time and energy into our state, as we know that when we're talking about us working for another state, right? Obviously, we took an oath to one state, but obviously we're growing as a state, different, more states go. We have to think about the initial basic things. As exciting as some of this stuff may be, right? We have to do the necessary carpentry work or discipline mentally, physically, through the state by enacting these laws, right? You don't just step into a building and just say, okay, it's mine now. However you guys ran it, we're going to consider it vocational training and you guys just teach us. Now that's a avenue later on, but you have to set yourself up to at least at a foundation to be respected, to even be in that position. Okay, so we got to think about this as states. A lot of the attention comes from whether you can travel or not in peace. It's Moors a lot of time. A lot of the tension comes from if you win a case or not. A lot of the tension comes from if you can get somebody out of jail or not. So it's a lot of different valuable degrees as to how you can begin to set yourself up as states. Okay, and all depending on how you're trying to operate, right? We all want to work for ourselves. We all want to support our state to the highest degrees. We all want to, do a numerous amount of things. But the smallest degrees still even have a few things to worry about, right, in regards to that sphere. So let's hone in on it and let's get simple, right? Let's get direct, right? So
I was according I mean this ain't our stuff, but with the BMB, they're supposed to give you a private plate when you tell them that you're not a U.S. citizen. Cause the BMB, they got you listed as a migrant farmer worker, so they already have you operating in commerce. So when you out here on the roads, that's why you get pulled over, because they already got you in commerce as a migrant farmer worker. So technically, they're supposed to give everybody a private plate, but that's something that they don't do. That's something that you got to enforce. There's a guy in North Carolina that actually sued the BMV and got like some millions of dollars for it. I gotta find the case in my library, but I got a lot of stuff saved in. But that's in their system though. So that's why I was saying like with that plate, maybe we could just put our ID number on there or something like. I don't know. It's something that I have to study about. But they got everybody operating in commerce. That's why everybody's got to have insurance on that part. They got you in their system as a migrant farmer worker, and you can actually get paid from that. But it's so much you got to go to get that money though, because they system is some different codes and regulations that it can get like it can get hectic trying to study all of it. So your
Yeah,
driver's license is really a CDL.
right, right. Yeah, putting a person in a Moroccan state is the way we access everything. First and foremost. Um, as far as the numbers on our plates, you spot on with that because again, they're pretty much the I forgot the word custodians, right? By custodians, we mean the people who kept everything in a line, even when the people who were supposed to didn't. Okay, they kept everything clean somewhat, right? Clean enough to the point we come in can see how everything is supposed to be set up, and we lay claim to what we're supposed to lay claim to. So, in regards to the numbering, we do exactly how they did in a lot of these ways. And numbering the license plate is one of those things, but it'll be from our system. It's a state in which uh, actually having diplomatic relations with them is encouraged because not only are we following instructions of our laws, right, and they will be following the instructions of their laws, right? We'll be having played state IDs and exercising them in peace, et cetera, in due time. Um, to further establish, because again, we have this period where the lion lays with the lamb, so to call. So these diplomatic relations, again, I heavily encourage in due time and in a proper light, because again, this is going to clean up the character or the nationality in it. Nationality. Remember, that's nationality is the quality of character. That ain't got nothing to do with that. That's personal. So we have personal, or I'm a blood by more, and then we have political. We got to make the facts and the truth match, right? So, um, I strongly encourage diplomatic relations, even. But again, back to the point. Yeah, the numbering on the license plates will be exactly that. It's everything from our own. We come up with our own everything. You know, and mimic just exactly how they did it. But as long as it's in alignment to, uh, let's just say, as far as identification goes, right, as states and what we have the freedom to do in customary law, as long as we're following the laws, right, of our treaties, right, the laws of our own states, this customary law, right, as long as everything is in proper alignment, there's nothing that has to be done with other states. So as long as we do what we said we would do, then, you know, how we're to work with them, And that's going to be decided in the future when we do diplomatic relations and exercise other avenues. It's not even established yet. But again, because just as you said, um, they have in their system a certain way of doing things. They have in their system, okay, if you don't have plates, you get this private plate, you get all this type of stuff. If you don't have an ID, you don't need one as long as you have a national ID and all this type of stuff, right? And Moore's over here like, okay, I got a nationality card and things what they need, right? So they have different things in their system set up in numerous ways that whether you is keeping a hamster wheel going or not. But the thing is that we can't take everything because the private uh, license plate wouldn't be something that would be given to us as a state who's independent and sovereign. It would be more so that private would just be us putting on our own plate from our own states, and in that whole private sect is not private because it's not coming from it's not coming like that. It's coming from us. We wouldn't have to worry about what they saying. We'd be doing exactly what they saying in a sense from our state. So they wouldn't have to worry about it. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But we coming from a lawful standpoint. So you spot on. But just it's kind of like the Social Security numbers. We don't take and put Social Security numbers on everybody just because they do it. We just take Social Security that's attached to the person, take the whole person and put it under the Moroccan state and say this is how things are going to be from now on. However you decide to do business. So
Oh, can I say something? I just wanted to chime in. I think it's whatever book that is, the council. It has the symbol, the seal on it with the bird, and there it's the OFM, your Office of Foreign Management. And what it speaks on is kind of going through diplomatic relations and kind of give you the sense of the question you ask. How do certain numbers or certain people identify within this population?
hmm hmm that's a good point. That's a good point. And what did you say that was? The OF.
The Office of Foreign Management. I'll send
Okay.
it to you. I'm driving. It's kind of raining, but it kind of just breaks it down like the I think it's called notice of appointment. Notice of appointment. That's what it's career officer, foreign service officer, what they call them. When you come and you get ready to do a mission, and, they just kind of explain the diplomatic relations between the heads of the state. When they're out on a mission, how to, just have the system work for you properly, quote unquote. But in relation to those type of numbers, how you get identified, or your family,
Okay.
he kind of talks about that. Just, I'm gonna send it to you. You can check it out.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. So before and I'll start another read from another document when I start do another video because I don't want to go reading documents without us talking about real time, because we'll start to lag on understanding. We'll read document after document without getting real intimate and dynamic with real time, and we'll have unanswered questions, not pondering hard enough seriously in this space before we move on. So uh, so in regards to the protected persons, and our whole conversation seems to be tonight in regards to the national trust, basically, because that's what we're talking about here. And uh, um, I wish I had that information up, but I'll post it if I can find the information on the national trust, the information I found. But again, it's so broad that we're talking about this again, the certificate of live birth here. We're talking about assets and property. So the next video we'll be getting into is how states are immune to it's an international convention of states' immunity of properties, assets, and land. So that's not exactly what the document is called, and I paraphrase it. But we're talking about, again, in that sense, how we can ponder on how we can enact laws in that sense. So we're talking about housing, we're talking land, we're talking about everything that the title talks about. Said. So you know, at that point we can have Qadis contemplate on spheres as far as you know, again, that's the tax assessors, how things will even begin to be established as far as that area. You know, it's a lot of things to contemplate on. It's a lot of things to contemplate. But we have to, you know, again, I'm pretty much just rambling here at this point because, you know, I'm not pulling up another document. But and again, I also definitely encourage y'all to just say or question anything. I don't care what tension it brings, because it's the dynamic I like to see. But you know, again, if we're talking about us going up to say, hey, what would, you know, and I'm actually just yield the floor with this question. What would be some of the initial phases of government or the initial avenues of government do you guys feel should be exercised, contemplated on seriously, and have laws enacted? What are the first few initial phases, and why do you believe that that's more important than anything? Why do you think that it should go in that order? You know, we wake up, right? We got a car. First thing you gotta do, you gotta drive somewhere. So, right, traveling, those issues seem to be initial, right, as well as other spheres. So, what other spheres of government do you guys see as as important initial stages of development that we need to tackle?
For me, uh, I feel like the right of us bearing arms for protection, that's with us and our family. Something with that. Start from
Islam, brother, can you
there.
repeat?
Um,
Can,
that
can you
Islam is.
repeat what you said?
for me.
I can't. Your phone was kind of messed up.
He was saying right to bear arms.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Turn my mic.
Yeah, I can hear you. For some reason, it's kind of acting weird, but yeah, I can hear you.
I said something to start deal with like the rights to bear arms for protection for us. Uh, Start with something like that, just for where we have protection for where we lay our head at, just in case if somebody try to harm us or something like that. Which I know that's somewhat like in place, but I know we have to like officially put it like into a law so we can enforce it. I think we should start like from there, like the traveling when we in our private conveyance, something with that. Uh, Let me see here. Man, I got some ideas I got written down in my notebook. I think that's like those two. We should start out with that. Um,
Islam, Mo, what would that be up under, like a gun trust law or something like that?
and I lost my, yeah, because I know with the because I got a the passport card in the book. I know I can get machine guns with the passport book, like anything. But
As far as the
something
guns,
like with that with us, something similar to
as far as
that.
the guns. Oh, go ahead. My fault. I know you were still talking.
No, I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head. That's why I'm over stuttering and stuff. But that I smoke weed, and I mean, it's just something I do. Is that my family did something with that with the KIF that was in the Act R series. I think it was what 70 Article 74 or something like that. Something that in place.
I think
Some with the grow our own food. That we gotta eat. I'm just thinking of just basic stuff, some
Hmm.
basic, and then just interpret it and make it sound good into law. Like our own right to live, our own way, right to grow our own food, right to do this, right. I mean, like we got to have our own schools. The state not go to their schools because they not teaching us anything, they're just teaching us to be slaves and be workers.
access to petroleum and
Things of that sort. Uh, I don't know if I think we need a law for like pedophiles and child molesters because the laws that they got, man, it's just basically nothing. It's like child molesters get like a year and a half in jail or like that, right back out doing the same thing. I think we need a strict law for pedophiles. I mean,
uh,
that's maybe why we in here because of the whole episode. Huh?
Your phone going
That's
out.
just, but that's just that's what I would start from. I feel like we need something like with protection with the guns, some with the right to grow our own food on the land, you know, something heavy for child molesters, pedophiles, rapists, of that sort. Maybe things like with abortion, like some protection for our women, children too. That's what my concern is because man, they like they really weird on that, They watch everything we do.
medical and dental too.
Yeah, that um, medical and dental. Um,
Hospitalization.
yeah, but we gotta stay out. We gotta have our own hospitals, because they hospitals is basically like
I
the
got a,
military land.
I got a
Yeah.
personal, I got a comment. Based on what y'all based on what you're saying right now, everything, I'm all in for that. But personally, based off my own experience, one thing I definitely remember that I did not like was one time I was in a different county somewhere where I was competent with an officer about who I was and how I travel and whatnot. However, they did not let me travel freely after they stopped me because my vehicle, my conveyance, was registered in their system, and I do know that has something to do with having a state trust. And I strongly feel like everything we're saying is good so far, but to be able to register our property into the trust so that way they can't have any type of jurisdiction or say so over it because it will basically keeping ourselves away from them, separating ourselves away from them so they can't control us in that fashion. Whether it be
Yeah, that'll be.
whether it be so I'm saying I'm with all the legislation and ideas on this stuff, but I want to be able to store or have ourselves registered
They
in
messing with
all
our. They
places.
messing with our.
You have to
I'm
make the
sorry.
trust
They
first
messing
before
with our.
you do anything.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. The trust, the state national trust, yeah, but let's kind of hone down to our own state. That way we can at least put some things in. Also, another thing that crossed my mind is that there's a lot of abandoned estates around here where I feel like if we're able to claim those lands and put it and register it into our own trust as well, we can have uh, more room to be able to build and start our own communities, even from a local standpoint. So a way that I feel like to maximize our own value is to take the lands that are not being utilized or abandoned and put that into our trust as well as many other things so that way they can't have any type of jurisdiction or eradicate that stuff from us. Uh, that's my comment on everything. Everything I feel like we're talking about is good, but I definitely feel like a state trust and be able to register ourselves into that, but give us further protection from them having any type of control over what we are trying to mandate for ourselves. I yield the floor.
Yeah, Islam.
Point of interest. Point of interest. Point of interest. I gotta get in. I gotta get in. I gotta get in. I'm hearing a lot of misconceptions here. For example, the land. Brothers and sisters, Morocco belongs to us. We don't need some abandoned land. We have to focus our minds on the entire empire. The empire is the land. And so when we're talking about economic liberty without any inequality, enforcing decolonization, guess what that includes? The return of our entire land. So we don't need to focus on the land, on specific pieces of land. We got to focus on the entire empire.
Are you referring to? I'm sorry. Are you referring to reversion of a state in some aspect?
I'm referring to restoring the estate, the restoration of our estate, in which we're through the process of decolonization, through the triple principles: sovereignty and independence, integrity of domain, and economic liberty without any inequality. That's going to give us back the entire empire. So if we focus on a piece of land, then what we're talking about in terms of the entire empire? The entire empire is the land. You see, so we have to correct our concepts in that regard. Also, a lot of the legislation that I'm hearing you all discussing is really, again, it falls into decolonization. We're taking everything back. Okay, so someone mentioned an issue with the hospitals, and not to go to their hospitals. Well, it's not even their hospitals. Everything that the United States owns, we own. We own the entire United States. What we have to do is enact legislation to have them operate the hospitals as we see fit, as we want it to be done. Educational reforms. We got issues with our kids going to their schools because their schools are teaching our kids BS. Okay, we got to reform that. But we're taking back everything. We're taking back all the colleges. We're taking back all the high schools. We're taking back all the elementaries. And once we take all that stuff back, we institute reforms to force the colonists, and not even necessarily force them, because we can have our own educators. But we have our own educators right now, and they're submitted to the United States and their war machine. So it's all about legislation to correct, which is, if you look at the Act of Algeciras and you look at the Treaty of Fez, it talks about the reforms. Instituting reforms means bringing in legislation to force the colonists to do things in accordance with Moroccan law as we see fit. You see what I'm saying? Now, when we send our children to these schools, can you hear me?
Islam.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we send our children to these schools, those same schools will be a reform. What does that mean? All misinformation, all miseducation out the window. We're now teaching the real truth about everything from here on out that the Moors have come back. That's the mindset we have to take. We have to take in regards to this. Guns. We already got control over the guns. KIF. You talked about KIF, marijuana. Go to our website. We've already enacted a legislation dealing with marijuana in regards to the KIF. You can go to our website, copy and paste that motherfucker. Take it all. Steal it. It's there for everybody to use, all our state governments to use. But what I want more is to understand, recognize that the United States of America, the United States, and all the several states fall under our authority, our jurisdiction. We own it all, including the IMF, the International Bank of Settlements, Wells Fargo, everything that you've been dealing with in these past years, or really the past 250 years, in regards to them controlling us. What we're doing is trading places back to where we're supposed to be in the position of power and authority, and through our legislation, which is our Moroccan law, we tell them exactly what they need to do. And finally, I'll end with this. I yield the floor with this. The very first position, the good brother was asking, what's the very first thing we need to deal with? It's not guns. It's not any of that stuff. The first thing we need to deal with is our national trust, to bring our nom de guerre, straw man name, the birth certificate name, under the protections of our state, because it's that name that they're using to adjudicate against us in their court system. They don't recognize your Bey, but they recognize your Johnson. So your Johnson needs to go under protection under your Moroccan state government, so that no longer will they have jurisdiction over that entity. Islam, I yield the floor.
Can you repeat that very last part right there one more time so I can make sure I take note of that?
Excuse me. Okay, so the very first thing that we need to do as Moroccan state government is to bring our national our nom de
They
guerre
messing with.
under protection. Can y'all hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to bring our nom de guerre under full protection. Bringing it into the national trust. What is the nom de guerre? Your strawman name. It's really the former Moroccan subject name. Your all caps name that's on your birth certificate. When the colonists have a case against you, they don't have a case against you, the natural human being. They have it against your corporation, which is your all caps straw name, right? Because remember, a human being cannot interface with a corporation. Only corporations can interface with a corporation. So when you become a Moroccan national, you cease to exist as a corporate entity. You come back now into full life. That's why the legislative branch, the mother, the Sayaraha, she has to sign your birth certificate because only she can bring you into life. So therefore, she's bringing you back into life through your Moroccan state government, right? But you still have your all caps corporation, and you need it because without that, your nom de guerre wouldn't be able to do business with let's say Wells Fargo to establish a bank account. This is the reason why Prophet Noble Jew Ali said, "Don't throw away your names," because we need it to access commerce or the matrix, which is the commercial activity that takes place within the system of the United States. However, that's the exact same name that they adjudicate you on whenever you end up in court. They're going after that strawman name. That's why Moors be saying, that's not me, I'm whatever bay. Well, the problem with you saying that is, can you prove your protection from another state as with the whatever bay that you're claiming, right? Now, Moors on this call, now you can do so because you have a state government to back you up. But the problem is, you still need to, they can still adjudicate against your nom de guerre. So you want to bring your nom de guerre, your strawman name, into the protections of the Moroccan state government so that now you can operate freely, and now the transmitting utility, which is what it is, transmit the benefits to you directly as the national or the breathing, living human being, as opposed to the transmitting utility transmitting all the benefits to the United States. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Understand? Like, yes, I agree with you 100%. I feel like that alone we should focus on for a while to harden that understanding as well as apply that before we move on to any other steps. Because that is the first step. Why not take it step by step instead of just throwing it all out at us? So, thanks for that demonstration, though. That was very clear. I'm going to stick to that. I think that is definitely something we should focus on right now because I know not all of us, some of us have probably started that process, but not all of us. And, we won't be able to get everyone completely in Indiana on that, but just for the sum of us here, to be able to move in that type of control, I feel like that right there will be a good first step to apply immediately. Because that from there on, we can start sowing the seeds for other areas for legislation.
Once we get, the IDs, I just got to get y'all information with the IDs. But once we get other stuff established to where we can get, like people wanted to claim their nationality, it's gonna spread like wildfire in the state of Indiana. Islam is like real big here in the state. It's gonna spread like quick, just from me being down here in southern Indiana, knowing people in Indianapolis and Amaris and Gary and Akil and Fort Wayne. It's kind of like good that we all kind of distance from each other, but we all close. It's gonna spread. It's a lot of Moors. It's a lot of Moors in this state. Believe it or not, it's a lot of Morocco. There's a lot of Moors here.
It's that was some good points y'all was bringing up. And
Competent enough to learn how to correct it.
Oh, my fault. I didn't know you were still talking. It was still messing up. But
I really got a feeling like it's gonna blow big here in the state. What's that?
it was going in and out. I didn't know if you was done talking or not.
Nah, they're messing with our meeting. That's them messing with that. That's why it's going in and out. There's nothing wrong with my phone. It's them not wanting us to talk. But he was saying, I was just telling him that in Indiana, after we get like our get our stuff together to where we're able to, if somebody was saying like they want to claim their nationality, we get them with their IDs and stuff, it's gonna spread like wildfire here. I just know this state, just how we are, it's gonna spread quick because people are already watching. It's just like some
Mhm.
people they just want to see like, well, I want to see what they do if they do this or do that. So I remember
Yeah.
going with Tenon Bay. We went downtown in Indianapolis with our fezes on, and it was so many people saying Islam, more Islam. They, you know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, I didn't know it was that deep, but it's real deep. You know, we in the heart of Morocco, so like it hits different. And Indianapolis is the only Jesuit city that's with the numbers 211. So it's a lot of Freemasons and Black Bull here too, though, in the state.
Hmm. It's a lot of interesting concepts being raised in regards to, and I wrote a few just because I want to speak on quite a few topics that y'all was talking about. But in regards to the land and the guns, well, the land, let's just start off. Um, so again, Abdul raised a good point, right? Our goal is to take over the entire empire, not take over, but govern the entire empire, right? So we have that concept as well as the dominions of our own state, in which that we got to think about the whole concept of a lot of more is called part and parcel. And there's been some more trying to squat houses, and whether somebody in it or not is a lot of stuff this out of whack, right? And so again, it's in regards to if you were trying to claim a house for yourself, individual, right? There will be a certain process as to first of all, we talking about character. So we're not talking about squatting in somebody's house. We're talking about the quality of your character, right? Secondly, we're talking about law. So we're talking about how would you go about that? So we're talking about exciting things in life, working for yourself and going to get land and not having to pay for this. It's exciting stuff to talk about, right? But it takes discipline, right? It takes organization. And so when we're talking about you know different avenues of all of this, uh, land, finance, all of that, right? We're going to have to prepare ourselves in many different ways. Okay. In regards to guns, again, as Abdul stated, we already own that. There's already a section in the Active Advisor series in regards to that, right? Things, marijuana, right? We have the Active Advisor series for that, in which that, um, well, I'll say this on the next point. These next 2 points, hospitals and jailing, specifically jailing. As growing state governments, we know that we don't have uh, everything that we should have, right? So we work towards that. One of the things being that we know we don't have our own jail cells or our own jails. So what's the full scope of things? The full scope of things is that this is Morocco, and they must abide by the law of Morocco. Why? Because they're corporations pretending to be as United States of America, right? So when we are talking about jailing, right? Let's just say uh, there comes the point of time, which it will come, where we'll have to govern things and not have the resources, right? Just as we are doing now, as in this various stages. But there'll come a point to where we'll have to govern um, other people, right, as we're doing now, but in a broader sense. And somebody will break the law, And when we're talking about what's to be done, right? Again, let's just say we don't have the buildings at this time, right? We don't have the jail cells. We don't have all of that stuff to do what we need to do, but we have trees, right? We have mediumships, right? So in regards to what's supposed to be done, again, they're in our stuff and they know that. What has to happen is due process of law. So where would they go? They would go to the same place that's called jail. Now, as to how that specific person or how that's being handled is up to our Moroccan laws. But again, just because they're in something that's ours doesn't mean that there's due process of law that happens as to, just because they're in that building, or we can't get in it or we can't touch it because it's there. But we got to remember, what are they operating as? Who has to lay claim to the land? Who can own it? Right? You have to be that in its entirety to operate as that in its entirety, especially as there's more states coming on. So again, they have to follow Moroccan law, and it's up to us to establish the necessary committees, departments of government, et cetera, to make this stuff coincide enough to where we're establishing laws and exercising laws that make all human rights equitable, right? It doesn't hinder anybody, right? And it doesn't cross any line. Okay. So as far as our own law. So taking all this stuff in the scope is thinking on multiple levels. But it also getting into the national trust or what was mentioned as the state trust. Again, that's the actual step that us as a state are on after acceding to the treaty. So the national trust is it should be nothing else focused in regards to, we'll be receiving information here soon within a few days with assistance on that. But once that information received, us as a state will be honing in on the national trust and all the information that we must take in before we even start to do anything, because the national trust is what we call the state trust, right? And so the national trust encompasses everything from property, it encompasses everything that you own, everything that you want to use, everything, right? This is how your person animates, okay? Or the state animates. So this national trust, again, it covers everything I just talked about, from land to guns to marijuana to hospitals to jails, right? So, and we got to think on multiple levels. Because when we talk about hospitals, we talk about land, we talk about multiple levels of something, because the state can own it, and then you have your individual you have your individual life. So you own a house, you own a car, you own something, whatever. You have your individual, your private life. So there's a many levels to think about this, and to establish an initial sense. But we must not be greedy, so we must not be thinking about ourselves first, right? We talking about the land, again, as Abdul mentioned, we must start from the head, right? We must go for it all, because it's going to trickle down from there. And then in that sense, you can formulate yourself more correctly, or as you wish to. As far as the national trust, everything that we talked about tonight, guns and marijuana, jailing, all that type of stuff, that's incorporated in the national, help dictated, controlled by the National Trust, established by the National Trust. And so us having our own seats of government, our own seats of office, excuse me, we can shed light on, we can take this whole conversation and say, okay, what is my duty? There's a lot of things mentioned. What is my duty? Right? So we have to think about this as moving all as one fist or motion, if you will. But this fist has 5 separate departments, right? So we move like this, right? But we're formation is like this, right? But we have to focus on everything first. That's the key. That's the connected part. So we can focus on our own individual seats of office by focusing on the entirety, state in its entirety first, and then you trickle down and focus on your own seats of office by establishing these individual departments, et cetera, et cetera. So who the tax commission or tax assessor is the person who will come into play big time in ICJ court cases in relation to other states, because especially our first coming up, right? Set it up right in the sense that we receive everything correctly. So when we're talking about how much they owe in active adversarial, we talk about all these departments, what's to be taxed specifically. We're letting it trickle down, effectively, right? So just take into account the multiple levels of thinking that we must do when we're talking about enacting law, right? Just the word person alone is his own dualistic world, right? So just talking about land is his own. You don't want to get selfish. You don't want to go for what you want. Let's talk about higher. We got to talk about the states that's not protected. More state government. You got to think about them, right? Before you get personal, right? And go for a house, all that type of stuff. We got to broaden our umbrella of the quality of our character. And when we talk about protecting human rights, okay, so that's the level of thinking we have to think about everybody, the whole thing, before we get to. Once that's covered, then we start to trickle down. Okay, so all that we mentioned tonight, the National Trust is the name of the game, as well as the protected person. That's the two themes of what we basically spent the time talking about tonight. The National Trust and the protected person, in which they go hand in hand. But that's pretty much the first step, is the good brother Cicero stated. The first step that we all should focus on. And Abdul stated.
Brother, you're right about that, and that protected persons, and you all will be receiving a document, a judicial order that gets sent out to the colonists, the United States, the state that you have reclaimed, the governor for the state that you reclaim. And obviously, every time you send out correspondences to these entities, you also have to deposit it with the Secretary General, because it builds the evidence for the case against them. But that 33-page document deals with the protected persons of your state. And so what it is, it's a list of protected persons. However many people are in your state, you're going to put on that list their nom de guerre, date of birth, and social security number. Again, that's all that they recognize. They don't recognize your bay or your ill, right? So you have to you utilize the nom de guerre, the birth certificate, the birth name, and the social security number, so that they can identify you in their system, so they can put you on the list, so that you'll be protected. And how do we know it worked? Brother Dre Bay, he got pulled over twice with a warrant
and they let him go both times. The second time, they actually took him to jail. And then in the
Well,
process,
Mo, it's all crazy. I can't hear anything.
I don't know.
Rope.
What about now? Can y'all hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I'm not sure if it's everybody has the
Can
same connection
anybody hear me? Can
Well,
anybody else hear me?
check 1
Mars,
2.
yours
Can
is a little
anybody hear
choppy.
me? Check 1 1 2.
Yeah, I
Can
can hear
anyone
you,
hear me?
Abdul. Yeah.
Okay.
I could.
Maybe it's your connection, good brother. I'll keep it short. Let me finish it up. So they returned. They during the booking process, they turned around and took him right back where they found him. Right? And no one gets away when you might be able to get away on the side of the road by talking to the cops and saying whatever you want to say. But if you got a warrant, there's nothing you can say. You're going to jail. Unless you're on a protected persons list in accordance with Article 8 of the Treaty of Madrid. So I'm saying all that to say you mentioned something about the protected persons and receiving those documents so you can utilize it in your state, Islam.
It's on. Thank you. I appreciate that. We appreciate that.
I'm getting a call from one of the Kazis. Give me a second. It might end up dropping the Telegram platform, but I'll come back.
Okay. It's on. So yeah, I'm glad he shared that point. Dre, if you like to come on and share more on that experience, we love to hear that. That's if you like. So in regards to again the National Trust, that'll be something that we'll be focusing, honing in on as a state as soon as all the proper information is aligned and received, because that's the actual that's the meat of the message, right? That's where we can start to spread our tentacles from. So and without the National Trust, again, that's what actually glues everything together for us to be able to utilize the Nam de Gear, what some people call the straw man, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I will yield the floor. But before I do that, I like to say that to the officials of Maru, I'll be sending you guys an email here shortly. But with that, I yield the floor, and anybody who would like to say or ask anything before we conclude this meeting can do so now.
Islam, I just want to let you know, Kill, I just sent you the rough draft of the live birth certificate. I'd like your feedback on that as soon as possible. I got time to edit and adjust things if need be. That's it.
Okay. Islam.
I wanted to add in, I don't know if this off subject, but like when I look back and I read through treaties and I read through, how they did us as far as contract law and competency, like when it comes in us in getting possession of this property, it's the same thing. So, a lot of these bad, whether it's a car, apartment, a mortgage, any of these type of instruments, they're all fraud. I know the trust based on my understanding. I know Abdul, he probably knows more about that, but just based on what I heard. But once that's established, now we can really move with the property. But counselor court is going to be important because you can initiate it whenever you're in a bad contract. So if you go get a house and you get the mortgage, you initiate counselor court.
Mm-hmm.
Islam. I got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You can go if you can go ahead. My bad.
Nah, I'm done. I'm done. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Was okay. As far as us officials with Maru State Republic, with the IDs, we got that part taken care of. We all just gotta I just got to get y'all information. Far as like immediate family, like mother, sister, daughters, or whatever, uh, do we all put them in a trust as our property? If you get what I'm saying, like how do we
hmm
put them on the person protected list? Is that how that goes from everybody else that come in?
Well, as far
Like,
as it's various varying degrees. So, as far as let's just say somebody who doesn't want to be a part of the government, right? They don't want to be official. They don't want to be a national.
yeah,
But uh, that's the sphere that comes secondary to somebody who wants to be a national or official, right? Because you got to be a national or official to do that. So, in order to do that, the state, in order to get to that person, basically the family that might not even know about the Moors, but you want to protect them, it would take enacted law for everything, right? So we got the power to protect the family because just in the convention, right, that we just read from, and other treaties and conventions like that speaks on family, protection of family, and the right to stay connected to it, etc. It's connected to them, etc. And even their own protection. We're talking about having to read certain international law conventions and treaties specify uh, that world, that reality in regards to protected persons who are not natural. Again, that's even in relation to other Moorish, other territories who don't have their own Moorish states yet, right? So that's pretty much even in the same field itself. But again, it would be us just contemplating on a specific article in relation to uh, family members being protected, et cetera, et cetera. Because just as read in that enforced disappearance, they talked about that as well, somewhere around 14, excuse me, or 15, as we were reading. So it would come full scope um, in that manner once we enact the laws from whatever treaty that gives us the power to do so. So without enacting laws, there is no, there can be more in jail, there can be your situation, et cetera, et cetera. If there's no laws for the constitutional court to look at and say, hey, we don't have any laws, then nothing gets done. Pretty much. You just kind of sit there getting drunk off of power, talking about what you could do, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. We would just have to create a department, commission, or a committee, whatever's necessary for the case at hand, for it to be exercised surely. So I hope that answered your question. And if there's any more questions or comments, y'all can again come forth now before we conclude this meeting.
in a way it did, but I still kind of like, I'm not like really. So it's like, how I'm trying to say it. So you saying we don't have to do nothing with them? Is that what you saying? Or what? Because I wanted to be able to where like how if they pull my name up, I'm on a person protected list. I like it to have if my daughter's name was pulled up, she was on a person protected list. Is that basically okay? All right, I got
Mhm. Yeah, it would
you. All
go. If you look
right.
on
Because Abdul, he was saying something about we would just need their name and social security number. Is that that's what I'm trying to figure out on that part. or
Yeah, I
like
think.
anybody coming in, because everybody not gonna want to be. Of course, they're not gonna be. I think like we pretty much got our government officials, and then the other people that come in, because they gonna be wanting. Am I gonna be protected? You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it would have to be just starting from the origin point of things when we dealing with Moorish national, who's a part of a Moorish state, obviously. And then we have somebody who is a United States citizen. Um, you know, there always has to be a due process of law, and so that due process of law would be um, us enacting a law that would reach out and protect or put a blanket over immediate family members,
I
right?
think
So,
that's something we should start with too, with the laws too. I think that's something
mhm,
right there at that point. Matter of fact, that should be like number one or
mhm,
two or whatever. You get what I'm saying?
mhm. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I went through this document these past two classes because this enforced disappearance document because as Abdul said that
Uh,
that's pretty much the whole second step that we're about to do. So in regards to contemplating on that realm, we're thinking about us. We have to be in the right position to play everybody else affected first, even though they're not in the right position. Your child is, it's various degrees. Mother is a different story, and then you have a child, you know, who's under your protection, all this type of stuff. You're dependent. So, um, as far as your child, you know, even with other family members, it's all up to the law, enacting law to get specific in regards to okay, when we say immediate family member, who is that? What is that? How far can who can we play the are we playing a guessing game when we say that? It's all up to this enacted law to say this is even in regards to people who are not nationals, so or officials. So um, the children, specifically um, your children, whoever has children, it was specifically as we see today in the United States, right? They set up certain trusts. We have our national trust, right? Now, when we to make our national trust animated, we have laws. But to make it much more direct, we have laws for children, right? We have laws talking about the protected persons list. Not only is am I the protected person, right? Or we're talking about family members in general because all are protected persons. So even when we talk about several conventions on on children rights, right? We're talking about simply copy and pasting in a sense of how to enact law, right? Because they want us to express human rights just as much as we want them to express their human. So it's all laid out as far as how to. We just have to remember or reorganize. Right? Remember ain't necessarily so far off thing. So you gotta try to do mental exercises to do the mental exercise and study and remembering this organization. So as soon as we reorganize in a proper sense, it becomes much more effective than we imagine. And so specifically to the point with the children again, in this law that I'll share with you guys because I realized I didn't get to that. I'll share with you all how much I've have to propose so far to you all, um, and we can go over that as the state officials of Peru, and we can build up on exactly what DeMarcus mentioned in relation to children and other immediate family members and how that or other laws will protect them, and we can make it clear because we want to We want to make it. We want to build it up. We want to start. We want to create a story. And we have our introductory phase. We start with us. Start with what it's about. We start with us, pretty much, our situations. Then we branch it out. Right? We branch it out past the pen, or we branch it out by the immediate family members. Right. So as we work on enacting this law in its various ways, it may be a few laws, but in its various ways, we can discuss how we'll set that up in relation to our children as we continue to branch out. So keep that in mind and look forward to that in our next class specifically. We can talk about what article, how we'll lay this format out.
We got a couple of legislation on our website that you all can go and review and copy and paste, adopt it for your state. Plant-Based Medicine Act. I don't remember the name of the one that we did for KIF, but we have that covered. And a few others. It's about 4 or 5 of them, and there's like another 4 or 5 coming online pretty soon. I'm waiting for the Jalil Aziz to finish their deliberation upon it so that I can sign it into law. And, this is supposed to be something that's repeatable, duplicatable, and transferable. You know what I mean? We don't want to burn up any brain cells that we don't have to burn up. So, you guys can just adopt our
Can you guys see that?
Islam.
Okay, so this was what one of the laws that Abdul just mentioned.
Let me see. Affirmation and trusteeship.
And was we talking about the artificial persons, right? Or the 14th Amendment artificial person. We're talking about basically this Nam Dagir, right? This straw man. So again, and as Abdul stated, it's all about not reinventing the wheel, right? That's plug and play. That's keeping it simple, right? So, I definitely encourage you guys to check out this website. As you see, the website name is at the top, impactmoxon.org, and check out as well as Impact.
Yeah, not right now.
They'll have not right now. They'll have their website information.
Yeah, their website has been hijacked. But that trusteeship, artificial person trusteeship bill, that was actually written by Jay Bay, and it came with a 33-page document. And then we basically adopted it ourselves, same thing that you all can do, but it deals with the protections of your Moroccan subject name, which is your Nam Dagir, your all caps straw man name. So that's an important one to have. What was the one dealing with marijuana called?
The Plant Act, I believe.
No, the Plant Medicine Act, and there's another one dealing with marijuana. I don't remember what it's called.
Right to establish and legislative. No. That's the Legislative Act. No mandate for Moroccan nationals. Then this.
Yeah, we have the no mandate. That means the no mandate deals with we're not subject to their laws in regards to the mandate for mask and vaccination. That's what that one is. So you all can adopt that one too. That's an important one. But I'm trying to figure out what's the name of the one dealing with marijuana. What was the name of that one?
I believe it was it looks like this Moroccan Plant Medicine Act.
That's probably what it is then. That's probably what it is, because I think we're covering marijuana and any other um, um, medicinal cures, like plant-based cures, like the Dr. Sebi ideology. You know, that's that. I think that's what that. Okay, that might be what it is. So what I'm saying is, you all can go on that website, study those bills, and use them for yourself. Islam.
I got a question. This is for Dual. Do you think it's a good idea? Rocking like to come and we have like the similar laws, so therefore it's like if I have to come to your state, I can still do what I can do in mine. I like,
So that,
it's like,
hold on. Repeat the question. Start over, brother, because he was kind of like choppy and robotic. Say it again.
uh, um, do you think it's a good idea? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. You think it's a good idea for all the Moroccan states to come together and we all enforce the law? So therefore, it's like if I come to Georgia, I can still be able to do what I can do in Indiana, and vice versa. Because you know how like the United States, you got different laws. Like in Indiana, I can do this. In Illinois, I can't do that. Don't you think that'll
Right.
bring like to unity, like with the Moroccan Empire?
That
You know,
we are. Yeah, Islam, good brother. That's an excellent question, and we are moving towards that. Whereas the same protections would apply to you in Ampac's territory or jurisdiction.
uh huh.
So yes, definitely, that's an excellent idea to do it that way. Because we all want to be in uniformity with one another. That's
Yeah.
why our bills got to be similar, or should I say, our legislation should be similar, and things of that nature. So yes, to answer your question directly, yes, I think that's an excellent idea. We will work towards that.
Okay.
It's not
The
from
other
Islam.
very important legislation we've been discussing on Mondays, which is dealing with identifying the colonists and their states in such a way that we don't violate their human rights, their state rights, and also without giving them any immunities from our Moroccan laws. That's a very important legislation we got to put together. But first, we got to go through the understanding as to what it is, what's what, and that's why we're going over the McGirt versus Oklahoma case, because that's dealing with jurisdiction issues. It's not even about McGirt. Nobody don't even care about McGirt. McGirt was a rapist, so he got like 125 years in Oklahoma, and then since he tried to reject the jurisdiction, which he was correct, the feds is who had the jurisdiction. Well, the feds picked up the case and locked his ass up in anyway. So the case wasn't even about him. And what it boiled down to was the legislation that was on that was or was not available in terms of how, in terms of jurisdiction, because Oklahoma never had jurisdiction over McGirt. That was the whole point. The only entity that had jurisdiction over him was the federal government. So essentially, what Moors don't understand or even realize, including those Indians, the Indian reservations actually have jurisdiction over the state itself, because of the legislation. See, they dropped the ball when they in the 1800s when they put together the legislation, and that's what we're learning, so that we don't drop the ball and have them with some sort of jurisdiction over us. You see, so it's very important to get on to these Monday night classes so we can learn and move forward with this legislation in the right way without shooting ourselves in the foot. Islam.
Very good point, dude. I promise that was good. I liked it.
What was that?
I liked it. The point that you just made, I didn't just see that. That's very important. Naming them, like you say. I didn't really see like dropping the ball, like how you described that. It's very important.
Islam. It is. Islam.
Yeah, those are some good points being made tonight. Good points. So if there's anybody else that has any other comments or questions, can do so now before we conclude.
My only input would be actually this is what was this, a class or a government meeting?
It started off as a government meeting, and then we told everybody a certain time, and so they can come in and we started an open forum.
Well, this was an excellent discussion, and this was an excellent meeting. Kudos to you, Isaiah Islam. How you?
I got a
Thank
question,
you.
Akil, or can you hear me? Can
Yeah.
y'all hear me? Okay, with the National Trust, well, with a trust, it comes with a grantor, the trust protector, then you got your trustees, then the beneficiaries. Um, as me being the Hajib, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I was, from my understanding, that's something that I would make the call on who would be like the trustees and beneficiaries. Um, is that with the beneficiaries? Is that just going to be with the officials? That's just going to be with everybody that claim their nationality in the state? Is it okay? Okay, all
Yeah.
right. And
Exactly it.
okay, I got you. All right. It's just something I want to make sure.
And to add on to that point,
But I was gonna make the officials or the officials would be like the trustees of it.
mhm.
So therefore, you get what I'm saying? I don't know if you have that understanding of how a trust is, but I was gonna have, since we the officials, like
Yeah.
we be in control of what's going on,
Yeah.
So
Only
all right,
officials. Only
yeah.
officials. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly how that would go. And for everybody else who are not nationals or officials of a Moroccan state, again, that'll be for all the more states to come together and discuss how we'll formulate a blanket, um, so that we can continue to grow at various more speedily rates. Because we don't want anybody again being suppressed of human rights. We want to grow as Moroccan states, et cetera, et cetera. So we got to make it all make sense, right? So we don't have to think about, everybody who's not officials, nationals of a state, just as much as we're thinking about our state, because it's all about human rights. So with that, I yield the floor. And if nobody else has anything else to say, we can conclude this meeting. And I'll post it on YouTube. And Abdul, I'll call you after this meeting sometime.
Islam. Peace and love.
All right, y'all. So we can conclude this meeting, and I'll talk to y'all sometime soon in the future. All right.
Peace.
Y'all, I'm out. Peace and love.
Peace.
All right.
Good meeting. Good meeting.